Okay, got a couple minutes. So just so you know, I'm going to be talking a lot today, kind of moving into some Siddhi Ma stories, and then at the end, I'll play a little bit. And so, if you're setting up for a sound journey right now, maybe wait. I just had a scorpion in my room, so everyone be careful. It was about that big.
Very auspicious.
Yeah. And I thought it was dead. No, it wasn't dead. It was lying on its back. And at first I was like, this is some I thought it looked like just thread that was kind of just, I was like, but I don't have any thread that, and yeah, it was a big scorpion. And then I was like, well, at least it died. And it was in the room all night with me, and also all afternoon, because I forgot to close my door thing when I went out yesterday. And so I'm very grateful that it didn't sting me. And so I'm sitting there, and then all of a sudden, I was like, wait a second, the tail is straight before it was curved. Is this thing sleeping? And it was. Sometimes they sleep on their back. And so I was like, all right, And so then I saw it moving around, so I was going to throw a towel on it and take it out. But then one of the workers here came in and whack. Oh no. Okay. Didn't want it, but that's okay. It was meant to be. Exactly. Yeah. It all is as it's supposed to be. And yeah. That's a funny thing too. Sometimes you hear people like, oh, it's, the furry creatures and all the animals, why can't we be so peaceful like them? What are you talking, what? It's like, no. Anyway. All right, I guess I'll just go. So I hope you all slept good and had a fun night last night. That was pretty special. Yeah. So, before going into some stories about Siddhi Ma, which there's a couple stories that I want to tell about when I first met her, and some things that happened that led me to really be able to experience and see who she was in that body, still is in other bodies. And then I have these books that maybe I'll get into. There is 2 separate trips that I went to India on my own and spent time in the ashram when there was really no one there except for her. One in the summer, which was brutal, and then one in the fall. And after every darshan, I wrote them down. Literally, as I walked out of the place, I sat down and wrote them. So, oh, the mic's on. Okay, let's mute that. Cool. And yeah, and it was important to do that because, as you'll soon start to hear, that a lot of these stories are somewhat unbelievable, and science would tell you that it couldn't happen, or maybe some science now says it can. And if you're here, you've heard these stories before, I'm sure, through Krishadas, through Nina, through Ramda, whoever. And some of you here also worship a flying immortal monkey that is incarnated into a human form. So it's also interesting how some things that we believe in are connected to, like, that's okay, but other things aren't okay. So it's nice to just open it up. And yeah. And also belief is something. A lot of these stories, things that happen to me, my intellect still doesn't believe it. It's still just like, wait, whoa, 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 whoa. But, the one thing that I found with these miracles that happen is that when they do happen, the intellect, that kind of part of the brain just crashes. It just, and then all that's left is the heart. And the heart meaning presence. Presence of that being, presence of us, presence of God, whatever. And then there's the opening. And Jaya, who I'm sure Nina has talked about, who is Siddhi Ma's attendant, translator, pretty much everything. When I asked her about when these things happen, she said, Arjun, they're always happening. And we have to kind of protect them like you would protect a tree growing. And I kind of really didn't understand that, but then I started to feel like it was something that was growing inside here. And that presence, whatever that miracle or that experience happened and unlocked in you, is always going on. And we forget about them. I remember I didn't read the whole Srimad Bhagavatam. Is that how you pronounce that? Yeah, kind of, okay. But but I remember picking it up randomly and read that Arjuna, whatever, forgot that the whole Gita happened, like the experience that Krishna gave him. He forgot about that. I said, wow, that's intense, It's like, oh yeah, I forgot, I saw the whole universe and the being. And so it makes sense because, my own feeling is to be able to get through this life and finish what we need to do here. We can't always be in that kind of state. And when go into these stories and remember what happened, it's that presence is there, and she is there. And so wouldn't be really able to function if that remembrance was always there. But also that's the practice, I guess, right, to where eventually it just aligns. So, so belief is an interesting thing. I think in a lot of this, there's really, like I said before, no belief really is required. And that's her practice, and being with these great beings give us that feeling and that experience. And as my own practice, I've really been going into admitting what I don't know. Really, really admitting what I don't know. And I don't really know much, which is amazing, because then all that conditioning starts to fall away, and then you can maybe see what's actually there. And that's beautiful. So I say, I admit that what I don't know. I don't believe in what I don't know, and I don't believe in what I do know. Because that knowing, it's just like, it's a different kind of knowing. Like Sokni Rinpoche, who was my Dzogchen teacher, Tibetan Buddhist teacher, he said, Westerners' mantra is, I know. Oh, I know. So it's not that kind of knowing. It's not a knowing where I own it. It's mine, my knowing. It's just knowing. So, so my journey, and the reason why I'm just kind of going back a bit is this, like, so I've had these kind of experiences all my life. I was a very strange kid. I used to, huh? Yeah, I just get stranger. I used to see a lot of things and feel a lot of things, and I used, like 5 years old, used to just sit there and imagine if creation didn't exist, Like, what if there is really nothing? And of course, that's impossible, but I would arrive at these really interesting states. But then there was me, and there was a presence, and that was like, no, but that's not nothing, that's not existing. And I was just experiencing, I feel like the essence of duality and trying to merge that. So anyway, as a touring punk rock drummer, I met a Navajo family in Arizona. It was 2 brothers and a sister. The mother was the manager, and we did some gigs with them. And they were a medicine family, not peyote. They didn't use medicine in that kind of way. They were just healers. They called themselves medicine people. The father, who was what they call a crystal gazer or a stargazer. So he would get his information for healing and everything through connecting to the stars, sometimes through a crystal, and and heal that way. He's still alive. I think he turned 99 last week, and this guy's amazing. He still does the hoop dance. He could do pull-ups. He's absolutely insane. And he doesn't really need to connect it. He just can see everything. And when you see him, he just looks like a very intense, serious, scary Navajo man. And when he opens up his mouth, it's just all jokes. He just complains about the healthcare system and the government, and he's just like cracking jokes. It's like, wow. And you can barely understand what he's saying. So then usually it jumps to the daughter. So the daughter is also a medicine person, and she is so amazing. And she helped me a lot. So this family, I met them when I was 17. So I've known them for a long time, and they've helped me out, and I've experienced a lot of things with them. And being in their presence at that age is what really opened me up. I was just like, wow, like this is real stuff. This is something that I want to follow. And they like to keep it hidden. You know, they financially struggle. They're kind of on a reservation, kind of not. There's always this thing going on there. And I once was with them when this guy from France called them and offered them $40,000 just for 2 days if they would teach him just a couple healing things. And she just hung up the phone. And she's like, we don't do that. And they don't. Like their view is it's universal. We're all one family. So they can heal and help anyone, but their modality of healing cannot be taught to anyone else except Navajo and except that clan of Navajo. There's different clans. It was really beautiful. So yeah, that was my first, they're really something. And then through, of course, the use of mushrooms and some psychedelics, always used actually for trying to find out who I am, led me into finding a Taoist teacher. If you don't know what Taoism is, it came from China, supposedly, and definitely rooted in shamanism from that area, probably came some from Siberia. And this teacher, his name was Ron Diana, just regular American guy. And his teacher was Montauk Chia, whose teacher was White Cloud and Immortal from mountains of Manchuria, I think. So I'm very grateful to have entered into the path through that way, because in that way there is no belief system. There is no dogma, there is nothing to believe in, there is no identity really around it. Even the teacher, it wasn't a guru, it was a mentor. It was someone that just shared practices with you so then you can help yourself. And the first time I ever met him, I passed out. I walked into the room and I had never encountered someone with that kind of energy. And I just went down. And he got me back up, and which he just touched my navel, and it was like an iron. And I was like, whoa, okay. And then I sat in the chair with him, and he said, let's meditate. And I said, okay. So I'm just, sitting there trying to do my thing, and he sneezed really loud, which was extremely jarring, which probably actually did something. And then I was sitting there, and then he got up, and then he came behind me, and he put one hand on my navel, one hand back here, and just pop. And it was like lightning entering into my system. My whole body just jolted, and it went up into my head. And around here, I saw such a beautiful, like, blue and white whirlpool kind of just thing. And I was like, wow. And then I heard him say, no, bring the energy down. Don't keep it there. Bring it down below your navel. And I looked, and his back was facing towards me. He wasn't even looking at me on the other side of the room. So that just blew my mind. And when he turned and looked at me, his eyes were black. It just wasn't even, I was 22, something like that, And I was like, what is going on? But, I did, and I brought the energy down, and he said, good, 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 and then, so you could see that relationship just went, there's many things I experienced with him. This was before even, during this time, I started to hear about Neem Karoli Baba and Krishnadas, but, and I spent about 7 years with him, pretty closely. I do garden work at his house and everything, and studied Chinate Song, a type of Taoist body work and healing. Anyway, so another experience I had in that time was I went to go see him. He used to give me treatments and everything, work on me. And I was sitting outside, and my mind was really, really busy. And I was sitting in this chair. And then, like in the summer, you have those groups of little gnats that are, I live in New Jersey, so it's like just, and I swear, these gnats came right next to my head and kind of condensed into a shape of my brain, and everything just cleared out of my head. And then they started to go away, and then I was like, no, that just didn't happen. And then they came back and cleared that thought. And as they left, Ron came out and looked at me and said, oh, good, now you're clear. So I was like, okay. So he knew that happened. And it wasn't him, like he used to say, we will take care of it. So as he said, he worked with a lot of different beings that came in. So he was just a normal guy that had this tremendous opening and channeled a lot. So stuff like that used to happen a lot. Once I was helping him garden, and we're like in his garden, there was a window that opened kind of this way, and it was level with my head. And I started we're talking about whatever, and I started talking about Jesus. And I said, well, when Jesus said, and I swear to you, I felt someone grab my head and smack it against the window. It wasn't Ron. And I was just like, what the fuck? And he said, yeah, you can't talk like that around here. He's like, well, you should have said, it has been said that Jesus said. You don't know what Jesus said. No one does. So that's a thing in Taoism that I loved, is that, their whole thing is, it's been said, so it's been heard. So it's been said, so it's been heard. So by the time that we read it, or, it's just who really knows. And it doesn't really matter. Mantras change, textbook change. And it really sometimes it has to do with if there wants to be control over people or some kind of manipulation towards a certain belief or a certain way. So that's one thing that's really beautiful in that tradition, is just don't worry really too much about that. Yeah. So when he died in 2005, in the beginning of 2005, and I met Krishnadas towards the end of that, and that's when he asked me to play. As Ron was dying, he said, do you know who Neem Karoli Baba is, and Ram Das and Krishnadas? And I said, yeah, I heard of them. Why? He's like, don't worry about it. It'll be okay. I was like, all right. So he knew all of this was going to happen. Yeah. And it was interesting when he died, too. We did a ceremony for him. And, yeah, that's a whole other thing. He pretty much came to me and just... So, meeting Siddhi Ma, Krishnadas, and all these characters over here, it was really beautiful. And the first time going to India and seeing her, being with her, the first darshan that I was going to have with her, Krishnadas said, you're going to meet a very unusual being right now. And it's like I didn't really know what I was looking at. It just looked like a nice old woman, but then there was something else going on. And it took a little bit, like the first few times that I would go see Ma, for like the first 2 weeks, if we had that much time, it was like painful in a way. You know, it's like, I don't know if you've ever been in front of someone, and like the Maharaji devotees talk about this too, where, you know that they know everything about you. And even stuff that you wanted to hide all of a sudden starts popping up, and they're just in there, and just like, whoa, okay. And about after 2 weeks, it seems to kind of all surface, and then it's just gone, and she takes it away. And I asked her about that. I said, what is that? It's just like, it's really painful sometimes to be in front of you. And she said, that's also grace, that you could see it, and then it's just gone, because it's also not who you are. And like, what a lot of devotees say is that they still love you. They see all that, and they still love you, and you feel that. So, yeah. That's what it was like with her. And then the surrendering. So at that point in my life, like I was into Ramana Maharshi, I was into some of the Indian saints, but I didn't really know what devotion was until I was with her. And this whole thing of surrendering to something or someone externally, but really they aren't a person, even though it seems like that. So you're surrendering to something externally while that which you are surrendering to arises inside yourself. And it's a really beautiful circle. And one of the main things that first trip that got me, well, first of all, she gave me my name, Arjun, and I'll just tell that one first. So I was wondering if I had an Indian name, what would it be? But I really didn't want a cheesy one. I am from New Jersey, so I couldn't have like anything weird. So I was scared to ask, right? But the curiosity was really building, and one day we're all sitting with her, and she's looking at me, and she starts saying my name, but wrong. Like Adam or whatever, I have no clue, but it was all these names with A. Alan is my birth name. And Jaya was like, no, Ma, his name's Alan. I was just like, what is happening? And she's just looking at me, and she keeps on saying these different names, and Jaya's like, no, Ma, his name's Alan. And I was just like, and then finally, I think Krishnadas or Satya, someone was sitting next to me, and I said, do I ask her a name? They're like, yeah. And I was like, Siddhi Ma, do I have an Indian name? She's like, Krishna's best friend, Arjun. She just had it. She was waiting for me. And she was just created this situation to pull it out of me. And so I was like, wow, that was bizarre. And I was like, Arjun, yeah, that's it. Yeah. So I can't tell these stories without crying, sorry. And the thing about that is that, since at that time when I was born, I didn't want to really do life, not in a way of being suicidal, but I really strongly recognized that this is insane. I used to look at my parents and be like, okay, I guess I got to do this, you know? And it was really difficult for me. I mean, Black Sabbath made it easier, for sure. But when she gave me that name in the story of what Arjun went through in the Gita, it felt like that for me. Like she was saying, it's okay, you can do this. Fight the battle, go ahead. I'm here for you. And that's what I felt, you know. Yeah, and still. And of course I forget all the time. So one of the big healings that happened that trip, which really showed me, where she invited me to see who she was. Once again, growing up in New Jersey with a Sicilian mother, you know, well, I mean, who had an easy childhood, right? No one. So yeah, there was definitely a huge disconnect with my mother. There was a lot of things that went on, and she was a very depressed person. And yeah, just had her stuff. And so I was with Siddhi Ma and Jaya, just the three of us. It was like a private darshan, and she was just looking at me. Now, nothing said at all. Nothing, just silence. And then all of a sudden, it was like my awareness, my consciousness just was pulled back from this world. I almost feel like, you know, one of those baseball nets when the ball hits the net and the net goes back like that. That's what it felt like. And I was just in this black space. It was like a different dimension altogether. And I saw my whole life with my mother, from the time that I was born to the last time I saw her, playing in front of me like a movie. Kind of like a review when people have near-death experiences and all that kind of stuff. I literally experienced that. And it was like that. And I came back and I realized why it all had to happen. Not in an intellectual way, but in a feeling way. And I just cried. I just broke down in Siddhi Ma. I was like, it's okay. Go sit and be alone. So I found a place behind Maharaja's temple in Rishikesh to be alone, and my mother called me from the States. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. She was dead asleep, and she called me. She said, what happened? Something happened. I know something happened. What happened? I was like, it's okay. You know, I can't really explain it. It's okay. She was like, something happened. I know something. So, yeah. And when I went back to the States, my mother was a completely different person. And our relationship was totally different. I mean, absolutely different. The first thing she said to me is, I can take you to lunch to an Indian restaurant. I mean, that's no. You know, she's not. So that, yeah. So, and still to this day, she's just very sharp, very aware, and it seems to be enjoying life. That's more and more. And that was definitely from her. That was from Siddhi Ma. I didn't say a word. I didn't ask about my mother. She didn't ask about my mother. There's nothing. Not a word. Just looked at me and done. You know? So that was really when I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. You know, and little things like there's this guy, Ganesh, Jeldiar, is that his name? Ganeshji? Yeah. Some of the devotees in, you know, like and I'm sure Nina talked about them, were in Rishikesh and some other places who weren't with Neem Karoli Baba, but were with Siddhi Ma, you know, and they really look at her as their guru, the same as me, the same as Nina, same. And and they're so sweet. They're so sweet. And he told me a story. I've heard it a few different ways, but this is how he said it to me. He was stationed in the army or something up in Badrinath, and he used to just basically drink all day and was like not into spiritual stuff. And somehow he met Siddhi Ma. And Ma said that every night the devatas, the deities from the mountains, and come down and they go into Badrinath temple, and then they chant and do everything, and in the morning they go up. And he's like, all right. And then he said, I think every night for a week or a handful of nights or something, he saw them, the lights and the chanting, and these beings come down from the mountains and go into the temple and then leave. And that was it. Like, he was just a devotee. And this man was so sweet. Oh my God. The devotion and the love was just tremendous. And I had experience with him once where Siddhi Ma wanted to see me in Rishikesh, and I was coming into the temple, and he literally met me at the gate with this astonished look, and he's like, this is a blessing, Arjun. He's like, Siddhi Ma said to go get you, that as you were walking through the gate, I would meet you. And that's exactly what happened. And that's, something small, but still, that was like, wow, that's so first trip, this kind of stuff is starting to happen, and it's like, oh, wow, cool. And there's a lot of things there. So let's see. So the 2 times that I went to India by myself, the first time is when it was in the summer, and Krishnadas was going to Maui to play for something, and he wanted to use a tabla player there and not take me, which I was very upset about. And I said, well, fine, I'm going to go to India. And so I went, and and I went to Rishikesh in the summer, and it was so hot. And the only Westerners there at that time was this woman, Prema, and Rita Green. Prema, they're both good friends of ours and from the States, and Prema passed a few years ago. But these were 2 amazing women that spent a lot of time with Ma and were really, really devoted. I think Rita, she's in her 70s now. She was with Ma since she was like 19 or something. So I get there, and this is kind of a long one, but it's kind of funny and just kind of shows a little bit also how she also taught and how like Leela can play out over time. And so it was brutally hot. I need AC, of course. And my friend from the Shivananda ashram, which is about a half hour north of the Rishikesh temple, said he's going to give me a room at the ashram. And I said, great, free room, but it didn't have AC. So I complained, of course, and he's like, I think this is the best room in Shivananda ashram. Let me show you something. And he took me the next morning, and all I wanted to do is get to Ma before she went in, because she does early in the morning, she does her rounds to all the different temple stations, and so I wanted to see her. And he's like, let me show you something. So he showed me how other people were sleeping, kind of just to give my ego a nice kick. And I was like, oh, okay, sorry, and but I was still hot. And so then I was like, okay, I got to get down to the temple. I got to see Ma. And so I get on this rickshaw to go down to the temple, and I was going the back way, not through the main, so if anyone knows Rishikesh. And so I paid for just me, so you could just pay the rickshaw just to take you so they don't stop, so that you could just get there. This guy went so slow, and I swear he was hitting every pothole on purpose. And he was picking up people, and I was like, dude, And then midway, he stopped to get some pan or something, at this little stand, right, where you buy stuff. And the guy behind a counter, behind a thing, was wearing a brand new Iron Maiden t-shirt. Now, I just went to see Iron Maiden. They were my favorite metal band since I was a kid. And I was looking at the guy. I was like, "Where'd you get that shirt?" And he said, "What?" Like he didn't understand what I was saying. I was like, "A brand new Iron Maiden tour shirt. Like, where'd you get this?" No clue. They thought I was crazy. And maybe I was the only one seeing it. I don't know. But, so that's when I started to think, pay attention. Something's happening. So I thought I missed Ma by hours. And as soon as I walk in the temple, she's there, looking at me. She goes, "Arjun, go sit in front of Hanumanji till I call you." And I said, "Okay." So I sat in front of Hanumanji. It was, like I said, just brutally hot. And she wasn't calling me, and she wasn't calling me. And I sat there, the whole day. As the sun started going down, she called me. Now, what I went through that time was brutal, and it was actually quite amazing that I started to recognize and feel, which I also forgot about, is that how much thinking heats the body up. Emotion and thoughts, it just all of a sudden, so it's just like, wow, I can't have some, So even doing any kind of practice was just, so literally it was just like nothing, just chop, and then I'd start to cool off, So it was really just like this, she just really put me through it to really also be like, this is what your mind does to yourself, this is what you, and then, as soon as it started to cool off and the sun's going down, she called me in, and there she is with Jaya. She's got a little smirk on her. She's like, "Arjun, feeling warm?" I swear to you. And I was like, "Yeah, Ma, feeling warm." Hello. Oh, it's a bee. And she's like, it's okay. Go up to Kenchi, which is the temple in the mountains, where it'd be cooler, and I'll follow you. I'll be there in a couple days. Which is like, wow, that's beautiful, because I'm feeling warm. She's going to leave Kenchi. She's going to leave Rishikesh and go to Kenchi. The people in Rishikesh are really pissed at me. And that's what happened. And then there were some stories that she started telling that really blew my mind. I don't know if I should have. And it was with Jaya, and it was with the guy Ganesh and his family, and some of the Mas. And it was like I got to see her in more of a family setting, and telling stories amongst themselves and laughing. And then, like, they'd be telling stories in Hindi and laughing, and Ma would say something like, tell Arjun, and Jaya's like, "Okay, I'm going to tell you what happened," And it's like all these really amazing stories. The one that really got me was they were up north somewhere where I don't think it's a proper temple, but there's a Hanumanji there. Maybe starts with an S or something like that. And so Jaya was cleaning Hanuman, the Murti, and then she was too tired, so she went to sleep. And she was sleeping next to Siddhi Ma. And then Jaya said she felt someone touch her like this and woke her up, and it was Hanuman. And said, "You got to finish cleaning me." And she was just like, "No, Hanumanji, I'm tired. I just want to go to sleep." So she went back to sleep, and then it was Hanuman again. And she said, he's like, "Come on, you got to go." This is how she's telling me, "Come on, you got to go, And she's like, "No, Hanumanji, I'm tired, I want to sleep." And then woke up again. And then she woke up Siddhi Ma and said, "Ma, Hanumanji won't leave me alone. I didn't finish cleaning him." And then Siddhi Ma was like, "Well, then go finish cleaning him." And they laughed at this. Like, "Ah." I'm like, whoa. What do you mean? Hanuman? Was this a dream? What are you talking about? I was never really clear on that. And it was like a lot of stories like that, of just like, "Oh, this is like normal for you," guys, you know? And that's one thing about, you know, the whole miracle thing too, is for us, they're miracles. For us, it's like, you know, but for them, I think it's, you know, probably, you know, how a lot of children, you know, look at adults as doing some things where they're just like, oh, wow, like, that's amazing, you know, it's almost like it's a miracle. But it's not to someone like that. It's just what they do or what happens through them. You know, and I always felt that with Ma. No matter who was sitting in front of her, you just felt like we were just children. And she was the real adult, real maturity. And yeah. So that time in Kenshi when I was with her was so amazing. Like there was like no one there. She would give me like 6, 7 darshans a day for over 2 weeks. And sometimes we'd just be sitting there saying nothing. And there was one thing that happened there. It was a couple things actually then that happened. One was that there's another temple in Nainital, which was like, 30 minutes or something away from Kenshi. It's called Hanumangar. And, okay, I'll tell this one first. And she told me to go there. She's like, you know, go there and, you know, just hang out, whatever. So I went there. And so at this temple, there is this room. It's a room, and it's all marble. And along the side is carved out the whole Sundarkan, the whole chapter in the Ramayana of Tulsidasa's Ramayana of the story of Hanuman. And there's a little Maharaji Murti there. And so it was locked. So I snuck in, kind of got myself in there. No one saw me do it. I closed the door. I did my 11 chalices. And during that time, there was a whole bunch of monkeys that were jumping on the roof. And the priests were trying to chase them away and all this kind of stuff, right? And so while that was done, and I snuck back out, and no one saw me. And then that was that. And then I went, as soon as I get to Kenshi, Siddhi Ma calls me in, and it was just the two of us. And she said, you went to Hanumangar? You snuck into the room, a little Maharaji, Sundarkan, so beautiful. I said, yeah. You did your chalices? Monkeys jumping on the roof. I said, yes. She said, Teek, no one saw you. Nope. Go have chai. Okay. Now I'm having chai. And then it hit me that, was she speaking English or did I understand Hindi? I have no idea. I understood every word that she said. She doesn't speak English. And she knew everything that I did at Hanumangar. Everything. And I was just like, what the fuck, man? You know, and that happened. I don't know. I try to remember. I try to go back there and be like, what was I hearing coming out of her voice, out of her mouth? I have no idea. All I know is that I understood what she was saying. Yeah. That same trip, same thing, she wanted me to go to Hanumangar. She said, oh, you know, tomorrow. She said, tomorrow I'm not going to be here. I'm leaving for the day. So go to Hanumangar, and they're going to do the whole Sundarkan. They chant the whole Sundarkan. And it's very, very beautiful, Arjun. It's so beautiful, such a beautiful Sundarkan. Go and be there with that. And I said, okay, I will. So the next morning came, and she wasn't leaving. Later in the morning, she wasn't leaving. So this was going to be in the afternoon that they were going to chant, so I had some time. Afternoon came, she wasn't leaving, so I was just like, well, I'm a bad son. I'm not leaving if she's not leaving. Even if she gets mad at me, if she's not going anywhere, I'm not going anywhere. And so all of a sudden, the guard comes and gets me, and he says, you know, there's these guys here going to chant the Sundarkan. They're looking for a tabla player. Would you play? I said, sure. And I'm like, man, I'm going to get in trouble. And so I played with these guys, and it was one of the most powerful musical experiences I ever had. I mean, they ripped the Sundarkan. They were just like, wham, 3 hours straight. And I do have it recorded somewhere. And I was just like in it, you know? And it was really beautiful. And then the moment it was done, Siddhi Ma calls me, and I was like, here we go. And she's like, such a beautiful Sundarkan, wasn't it, Arjun? I said, yes, yes. She's like, good, go have chai. It was always go have chai. And I'm having chai with the guys. There's like these younger guys who sang. And then the guy started telling me, he's like, you know, it's the strangest thing. We were supposed to do this at Hanumangar. And he's like, we had literally started. It was him and the bell player. And he's like, and all of a sudden I stopped and I said, we have to go to Kenchi. And he got on his bike with the guy. And he's like, I'm actually trying to stop and turn around because I didn't want to go to Kenchi. He's like, I don't understand it. And I was like, I think I do. And I told him, and he was just like, wow. He's like, that's a blessing, you know, for him to actually feel. Like, why is my body doing this? I don't want to do this. Right? And it was such a beautiful Sundarkan, Arjun, wasn't it? And she knew. So that brings up a lot of questions. Right? Like, free will. Was that supposed to happen? Was all that, did she know that I wasn't going to go? Or like at some point she's like, yeah, he's not going. Okay, let's change this up. Right? Who knows? And that's the kind of stuff also that like, like it just, any kind of ego or any kind of thing that in practice that starts to creep in, that's just like, you know, me and my practice. You know, I know. And then something like that happens, you're like, I know shit. You know, and it's just like, and that's where the surrender comes even deeper. And also that love. In you know, not like a love that has an opposite. It's not really an emotional love, even though we were like children too, and sometimes it definitely was an emotional love. Like, how come you're not looking at me, Ma? You know? But yeah, it's just something so deeper. And yeah, I bought her once in Rishikesh a Durga statue that I wanted to give her. And I actually flew all the way home with it and then flew all the way back to India with it to give it to her. And I had it with me in Kenchi the whole trip. And I didn't want to give it to her in front of other Westerners. I wanted to do it alone. And at that time we had, his name was Arjun. If anyone remembers Arjun, he used to be our sound guy, a Gujarati. He was like my brother. And so, you know, it was towards the end of the trip. I still had the statue. I was like, I'm going to have to bring it back home. And so I'm in a room with him, and just as I'm saying this, and I'm like, just, there's no hope, knock on the door, Siddhi Ma is just calling you two. So I hide the statue under my shawl, and I walk in the room, and she's looking, what you got? What you got for me? What you got for me? And then I gave it to her, and she's like, oh, thank you. And so she took it, and she did puja to it, and then gave it back to me, and said, you do puja to it, Jay, I'll teach you. And this is my gift back to you, which Jay never taught me, and I never washed that Durga at all. How could I? It's just still there. I did the same with the Maharaji statue that I found, and she's like, oh, thank you, Arjun, but I already have a big Maharaji. I have a big Maharaji in Rishikesh and Kenchi. She did puja and gave it back to me. Yeah. Also, during that time, the second time that I was with her alone, time is it? We got a little bit of time. Was during the winter, and I was staying in Nainital, a half hour away, so I drive back. There was a lot that happened that trip too, but just her grace, to show her grace. Every night before going back, she gave me a kind of pancake kind of bread. It was more, it was very thin, almost like a thin pancake, in these greens. And she said, eat this with your dry spinach and paneer. She knew what I was eating. And I said, okay. And then finally at the end of the trip, Jaya said, do you know what that is she's given you? I said, no. She said, she's cooked that herself. That's her offering to Maharaji. She gave that to me every night for like 2.5 weeks. So I don't know what that saved me from, but so, you know. And also during that time, I was flying back. I had to fly back to get to the November New York City gig. And every day, almost every day, like the last week that I was there, she's like, what day are you flying back? The 24th. You sure? Yes. Okay. Next day, what day are you flying back? 24th. You sure? Yes. Okay. Every day. Literally the day that the day before flying, she's like, how about this? I know someone that's going down to Delhi today. Why don't you go with them today? Free ride. I said, okay. When are you flying again? Tomorrow. Are you sure? Yes. Okay. Now, as you probably know where this is going, I get to the airport, and they won't let me in. Your flight was yesterday. And I swear to you, the moment that he said that, Prema called me. Siddhi Ma's asking if you're okay. What happened? And I was like, I missed my flight. And then Siddhi Ma told her, she asked you every day. So my response was, you couldn't tell me? Right? Like, really? Like. And so now this was a time when the old airport in Delhi was closing and the new one just opened. And this was before United Airlines and Continental were a thing. So it was Continental Airlines. And as I found out, their office was in the old building. I have 3 big bags, my carry-on, on a thing. And they said, you have to walk over to the old building. I literally had to walk up a ramp and on a highway. And then down another ramp to get to the old thing. And I swear it was 100 degrees. I had no water and there was no air moving in Delhi like there never does. And I swore at Maharaji at 100 miles an hour, you son of a, I mean, I lost it. And like with these Indian people must have been looking at like, what is this crazy Westerner doing on the highway with his bags? Cursing like he's lost it, you know? So then I finally get down to the old airport and there's just a mob of people, and I'm just, now I can barely walk, and I'm just like laying on the cart, just kind of like pushing it, and they're just looking at me, and then I catch in my eye these Continental workers, and this is after going in the building, and I was like, I'm just gonna die here, that's it, and they were just looking at me, they were just like, oh, yeah, we can help you out. Walk back over with us. And it was like, okay. But then there was like this like path, and like I kept on, it was like a dirt path, and I kept on knocking my bags over into these puddles, and they wouldn't help me, they just like looked at me, and I'd pick them back up. So anyway, I thought this went on for hours, and I thought that I missed my flight, and I didn't. It all took 20 minutes, which is bizarre in itself. And I got a first class ticket for free, and sat next to a man who was from Chennai, and he was like a computer worker, going to the States. And we had gotten to conversation. He saw me doing like Ram Nam writing job. And he was like, oh, what are you doing? And talking. And he said, he really had a strong desire to be on the spiritual path. But due to the conditioning or whatever, like his parents said, and he was kind of really locked into this thing, was that, that's not till later in my life. I can't do that now, I have to do that. And I was like, sorry, I know I'm some white guy, but that's not true at all. I was like, my guru's a householder guru, and he, and then he saw Maharaji's picture, and that was it. So, so he really kind of, our whole flight was talking about that, and I think he pretty much became a devotee after that. And so, that's it. But to look at that, and like, wow. She knew all of this was going to happen. And I was fine with it at the end, It's just like whatever karma I had to go through, whatever suffering thought I was going through, whatever, it was all perfect. I wouldn't have had a first-class seat before. Now I did, for no money. And this guy, Maharaji, came to this guy through this whole situation. It was so beautiful. And so that's the thing too, is like, it just, one thing goes to another thing, goes to another thing. And she knew it all. She knew all of it. And yeah. Maybe one more story. This is a good one too. There's so many. I haven't even opened up the books. We were in Nainital, was Jaya's house, right? Jaya's house, where Siddhi Ma, towards the end of her time here, would spend in the house. And she'd kind of go back and forth to Kenshi. And it was beautiful there because you weren't dealing with like the trustees at the temple, and it was difficult there for us as Westerners sometimes. It really didn't. Some really loved us and wanted us there, and some really didn't. And so, and that's the thing about what I really loved about it too, is because this whole, are you appropriating this? This is not your culture. It's definitely not our culture. And we knew that, and were reminded of that all the time. We weren't allowed into certain things when certain ceremonies were going on. And most of us understood that and accepted that. Some Westerners got pissed off, or was like, no, I should be allowed in, It's like, this is not your thing, We're just here to be with Ma. It's just like, so I understood that and was fine with it. And, but at the house, all that disappeared. It was just like Grandma's house, it was so beautiful. And we were singing for her inside her room. It was Nina, Katie, and I, and she was sitting on a chair. And I was playing Dolak. I remember, I hate playing Dolak. And we were doing the Durga chant, the Ma chant. And all of a sudden, and Krishnadas talks about this experience with Maharaji, a very similar thing, and it happened to me with her. And then all of a sudden, I saw her. She did something. She lifted a veil, and it was just her. It was just, the only thought in my head is, this is God. This is your guru. Complete realization, no time, but just really recognizing, really being in it, and just tears. I couldn't play. I actually stopped playing, and it was just this stream of tears, and that was one of probably the most beautiful time in my whole life, that moment. And then all of a sudden, it just went, and it was like it never happened. And that was that. But 2 years later, in Rishikesh, up on top of, there's these rooms on top of this one. It's hard to explain if you've never been there. Anyway, there's all these pictures on this wall of Siddhi Ma with all the Westerners in different times and everything like that Jaya put up there. And there was this one row of pictures where, there was that time of the three of us sitting with her. And one was obviously just missing. It was just taken down. So I asked Prema, I said, what was this picture? And she said, that's also when you guys were in the room and it was taken behind during, she's like, I think it was the Durga chant. And Ma took it down and said, you can see too much of me here. And removed it. And that was that moment, I believe. She didn't want people to see that. It was way too much. And also it was, I'm very grateful for that because it told me that actually happened. Once again, the intellect is just like, maybe you created it. The ego is just like, does anything to destroy that kind of stuff. So in her way, it took 2 years, but that was also her telling me that yes, that happened. So that's how that works too. And I have 1 minute left. Perfect. So there's a lot more. There was so many stories. I mean, I got 2 books filled of this kind of stuff, and that I probably forgot most of them even happened. But and her presence, is still here. She can go anywhere in that kind of way. And she really prepared us for that, I feel. There was even 3-4 years before she left sometimes. It was almost like she was going to go anytime. So it was like we started to feel like, okay, we need to start accepting this. And I started to feel her presence very strongly before she left. And also at times, right before she was leaving, it was almost like she was already gone. Like her eyes would be kind of crossed. She would just kind of be there, not, and Jaya was holding her. It seemed like Jaya was literally trying to keep her in her body, And the last time I saw her was at that house. Nina was singing chalices, we were playing. And I went to say goodbye, and Siddhi Ma was in that state, she wasn't even there. And then all of a sudden, Ma went, whoosh. And when she came back, she was back. It wasn't she was all of a sudden fully present. And Jay looked at me and said, Arjun, now's the time. And I knew she meant it. And I was like, Ma, I love you. I love you, I love you. She looked at me and she was like, I know. And that was it. And that's one thing that Jaya said to me. I always asked Jaya, what could I do? What's, the American yogi ego. What's the prayer that's going to work? What mantra could I do for Ma? What's it? And she said, Ma just wants your love. That's it. She doesn't want a prayer. She doesn't want a mantra. She wants you to say, Ma, I love you with all of my heart. That's it. That's all you have to do. And it's true. So all the practice, and that's the other thing, the beautiful thing about being in front of her, or any being like that, all this idea of practice, all this idea of becoming enlightened, all this stuff of your stuff, all of a sudden it's just, you're just okay with it all. Without trying, you're just completely okay. Everything's okay. Everyone is okay. No reason to practice. Just, it's okay. Mm. And of course, it closes up, and we do practice. Yeah. Yeah. So that's that. I can go on, but. Yeah. Thank you for hanging. Sharon. Sorry I didn't play any more music, but.